Nice to have you join us. This is Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television. I am Henry Igwebike. We start off today with our newspapers as usual, and interestingly, right after that will be our main conversation also for today. But please do well to be part of what we do. Have a say in what we say. You can always find us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. Right here with us in our studios, we're very honored to have Innocent Aduluba, journalist, public affairs analyst, to see through what we have from our newspapers, and if possible, let us in on our main conversation. Good morning to you, Innocent.
Yeah, my pleasure to be here. Good morning. You're looking dapper.
Well, I can't complain.
There is that man in CNN. I used to Larry King.
Larry King.
Are you the Nigerian version?
Well, not Nigerian version, but he used to be my icon. I looked up to him. His voice, his ability to ask the tough questions.
He was a awesome. Great, dedicated professional.
Very well.
His shoes are very large to feel.
Very, very large to feel. Yes, so that's what we'll be talking about today. Of course, doing the tough questions and analyzing some of the most critical stories happening out of Nigeria. But let's, of course, start off today from our newspapers. And we have the first daily on our desk. It's coming from the Punch newspaper. The big story here, 54.9 trillion budget. Federal government, World Bank at odds over funding strategy. On the very top strip of the same newspaper, why Tinubu would defeat PDP again in 2027, and that's coming from Wike. Lagos APC aspirants protest today over LG primaries. But let's go right straight to our talking point for today. Oil drilling to resume in the northern part of Nigeria and NPCL. Innocent Aduluba, let's talk about this particular matter. You know, Nigeria is such a very complex society where the more you look, the less you see. One would have thought that having the oil drilled in the northern part of Nigeria was but a fash, was just but something we shouldn't even be talking about. But of course, it is becoming reality. Even when we know there ain't enough volume of oil in the northern part of Nigeria.
Harry, it's gratifying to know that oil is spreading everywhere. Yes, it's gratifying. It's something, it expands Nigeria's wealth. The question will be, the ones we have, what's the level of maximizing them? Because I was arguing with someone who counted the Dangote refinery among the achievements of this administration. And when I asked him, he said it's because the Dangote refinery is a beneficiary of the reforms ongoing from this administration. I ask, is the NNPC immune to these reforms? You know, we have I've seen with my eyes severally. 1998, I was a boy. 2000, I've seen the Kaduna refinery at work. There's that place they call Abuja Junction. So when you come in through Command Television and you are going to Sabo, you will see the refinery there. Around there, the police quarters there. You see fire there. Now, but we don't know when last that happened. So if we don't maximize, I think that for me should be a bank, a reservoir, a farm, where when we maximize what we have, we take these resources and develop that, not carrying out fresh costings, budgeting as we are used to, and then face that one. And the ones that are supposed to be running are still, you know, infantile or almost moribund. Sometimes I wonder, do staffers at the NNPC get salary?
No, they
salary
do.
For what? What do they do? You know, up until the last man, what's his name? Is it about Mele Kyari? If you hear such person's salary, it will make you dizzy. But then that does not approximate the performance of the NNPC. I know you are talking about oil drilling.
Yeah.
But you see, these are where it leads to. The equipment, the machinery, the cost to drill, to burrow into the ground to those depths, especially Well, I know that parts of the north, Kaduna and Co, can be wet and marshy, but the tableland, they are it's way higher than the coastal place here. So it's good news. It's good news. I hope we don't go about it the Nigerian way, Henry.
Well, going about it the Nigerian way, it's equally good news when it's realizable, when we know that there's so much oil deposit in that region. But of course, we know we do not have that much of an oil deposit in that region. And one would wonder why expanding so much on that when we know the end. But let's get into other matters, especially on the oil in the northern part of the Nigeria. We were having a discussion, Innocent, just before we got into the studios, and you told me how that in the pre-independence / post-independence, the northern part of Nigeria, used its resources, which of course farm produce, to maintain our exchange rate back in the days. So one would wonder, why not have Nigeria diversify itself to that same area than going on a wild goose chase?
Henry, there's something called comparative advantage. You find little places in the, like I would say, even in developed countries already developed countries, like the United States of America. You find states like Illinois, great manufacturing hub. Springfield is their capital. Then Chicago, all those bordering on the Great Lake, great manufacturing hub. And you find states like Kansas, Arkansas,
Yeah.
Nebraska, Wyoming, trading cattle, confectionaries, agro-product with Illinois for manufactured products. So who says trade by barter is dead? So those states, Kansas, Arkansas, especially notably Nebraska, are banking on their comparative advantage. And the biggest comparative advantage is land. It's a fixed and free gift of nature. And as at the time when $2 was equal to 1 naira, we were flourishing worldwide based on returns from agriculture. Sometime in 1990 or thereabout, my daddy woke me up to listen to that 9 p.m. news then. I think it was with Ruth Benemesia up here and Cyril Stober. I don't know if they both Ruth Benemesia.
Yes, they worked almost at the same time.
That night I cannot forget. I was angry because I was just a little boy and I had senior ones. But by the time my daddy opened the room, I was just tossing. Maybe he thought this one is not feeling dizzy and brought me to the living room. Henry, I'm very grateful to my daddy today because when people mention Nigeria's groundnut pyramid, I saw it myself on the NTA news. Pyramids of groundnut in Kano, pyramids of soybeans in Makurdi, large ones. And why am I mentioning them? These are products from land, the soil. Those soil are still where they are. What are on the soil? We are approximately a week closing down on the midterm anniversary of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as President of the Federal Republic, having won that election in 2023. The new nomenclature in Nigeria is food inflation. I know I've seen the Niger State Governor with tractor, Peter Obi, the defeated presidential aspirant of Labour Party, has been around there. Now, out of 36 states, take out Niger, with food inflation. Which governor can you tell us, Henry? Or, yes, which governor has among all the empowerment, everything you hear, which governor has gifted out tractors for farming to reduce food inflation? Where has President Bola Ahmed Tinubu gone to commission such an initiative in 24 months, in 24 months, are we intentional about curbing food inflation? I'm not talking exports yet like you asked to. Just for us to be food self-sufficient. It now makes us a country that cannot feed herself. We wear clothes we buy, we cannot clothe ourselves. Nigeria is insecure, Nigeria cannot secure herself. That is a question mark on nationhood. And that is why insurgency is chipping at Nigeria's sovereignty.
Very, very true. Very, very true. Because, some of these things, when we say them, it makes us look like, the North is being deprived what is due them. But of course, the North has more than enough to contribute, to the table. But of course, while we'll talk about that, let's look at other issues from the Punch newspaper. UK unveils plan to slash annual immigration by 100,000 naira. And this, of course, drives us to exactly what we were talking about, back in the days, like you did say, in the early 80s, the late, 70s. Nigerians weren't so anxious leaving the country. There was more than enough for everyone to smile home with. And therefore, at that time, I would love to believe people would say that it was even almost free to go to the UK. They would beg students as at the time to come. But people weren't even interested. But now, the UK is slashing over 100,000 immigration opportunities for Nigerians.
Not even in those days. In 2004, I was an undergraduate at UNILAG, one of the department excos, and somebody doing an extra year ahead of us who was doing a course with us approached me. I took his papers to the DSA, the Dean of Student Affairs. He didn't go through passport, what they call visa, the way it is now. 2004. I didn't see him again. I was serving one day when a car just bumped into me in Ikeja. I was going to start screaming, "Don't you see road?" And he came out, people were screaming, like I was injured. And he hugged me and was said that he was just back from, he had been looking at, I'm already serving outside Lagos. How did you do it? And he told me, he just took his papers there. They looked at it. Off he went. Some of my lecturers in the postgraduate class have told us how in those days, it was Europeans, Americans who were happy to attend UNILAG, to attend Obafemi Awolowo University, Ife, to attend UNN, to attend ABU Zaria. They felt it was prestigious.
Yes, because even during my secondary school days, we were actually taught by Indians, were taught by different Caucasians, so it's strange right now.
But today, there is a reversal of fortune. It's a ridiculous anticlimax. People even take loans to flee their fatherland, to escape their motherland. People, it's a target. This 2025, it's a target for some families to emigrate from Nigeria. Come what may. You see even people doing well. Nigerians in their prime, fleeing, and like we would say, we are not at war. These are supposed to be picturesque of Bangladeshi, of maybe Gaza,
of
Myanmar, you're right, of Somali, South Sudan. But we who claim to not be at war, take a trip to the international airport. It's a beehive. It's a frenzy. Nigerians, consciously, not drunk, are fleeing. And if you think we are not at war like we claim, as I would always say, take a look at our IDP camps. The results are there for us to see.
Very true.
So UK, in this capacity, have reduced the burden.
Yeah.
Expect more immigration, Henry. Expect more. And who is the gain? Who is gaining? Our losses are the gains of the United Kingdom. Vibrant labor force with enabled people with good resources. Because you don't go there empty, there'll be bank statement. So we are losing they are gaining.
Very true. And most importantly, especially our healthcare infrastructure and ecosystem. Right now, in most tertiary institutions in Nigeria, health institutions that is, departments are closing down because there aren't enough professionals to man them. And the little we have, you see long queues of patients waiting to see a doctor. And it's so very unfortunate. And most of these experts are actually fleeing to places like the UK, the US, and other parts of the world, which, according to Innocent Aduluba, rightly put, our loss often other people's gain. But let's take a look at the Daily Trust newspaper, Innocent, for a while. Expect electoral reforms before 2027, and that's coming from INEC Chairman, of course, whom is still Yakubu, Professor Yakubu Mahmood, who will leave by July, I would love to believe. But the electoral reform is talking about. What do you think it's going to be panning towards?
Did you say he is leaving?
Yes, his tenure is almost over this year. He should be leaving by July.
Are you the one sending him forth?
Well, Nigerians were tired. I'd love to see someone else replace him. You know, thinking about all that had happened, especially for the 2023 general elections. But talking about electoral reforms, Innocent, there has been a cry for electoral reforms in Nigeria, which, of course, one of them is the need not to have the president select or appoint, crown, whom would, of course, take over the position of the INEC chair.
You know, we have finally agreed that we've come of age. In the days of President Olusegun Obasanjo, Yaradua, Goodluck Jonathan, before we do anything, the media will tell you, nascent democracy. Nascent democracy. Nascent, the OB is no more a boy. He's now a man. So, and a democracy since 1999 is 4 years shy of 30 years. We have not left where we took off from. That democracy, leading up until months ago where we had the election in Edo State, we still carry ballot box, shoot guns, kill.
Disenfranchise people.
I was disenfranchised during the election. They took my paper, my INEC card, and said my name here in Lagos does not smack. Meanwhile, where I'm from, Adulugba, people tell me, are you Yoruba? I've been explaining no. Here, that they asked me if I'm from. I was disenfranchised. Pregnant women were molested. I was there. Ladies, especially those who refused to keep quiet and wanted to vote at all costs. That was 2 weeks after the deferment for the governorship elections. I was there. So these reforms, I hope they are not for the print, for the optics, for people to read. What the reform I'm looking for is not what happens on election day. Is that every elected office holder who defects from their political party should lose their position. Definitely. That's the reform. We shouldn't look at reform that starts and ends on election day. We have elected you we elected Governor Oti of Abia in Labour Party. He shouldn't feel suffocated or overcrowded being the only Labour Party governor. So after a while, you decamp to PDP or APC. The wish of the Abians was to ignore APC and PDP. They've had enough of them. That's why they voted Labour Party. So if Governor Oti, within this example, defects, he stops being governor. You know, and I don't want all the noise about, trying to, my friend in NYC will say, trying to justify injustice. You say, oh, the party was in crisis. Fix your party. Stay there. If this law, if I'm to contribute, that's my only contribution. That's my only contribution. Just fix stay there. Secondly, anybody caught carrying ballot box should go for death sentence. The will of the collective masses, you want to truncate it as an individual, is death sentence. You have no regards for people who are investing in their future and in the destiny of their children. So Mahmood is also a lucky man. Come November, if he's still there, he will be Nigeria's longest ever serving INEC chair. I would also have advocated for a change. He had served long enough, and Nigerians have enjoyed his good days. He shouldn't wait until the bitter end of his diminishing return. You leave when the ovation is loudest.
Very, very true. And speaking about the electoral reforms, of course, we cannot but expect something good, just like Innocent had said. If it would be possible, we pray it would be possible, for people to stay put with their political parties, because it doesn't really make any meaning that the political party that brought you to office, simply because you are no longer in tune with them, you now decide to leave them and jump ship to yet another party that you are not sure would even guarantee you what you expect. Well, that's what we have for this particular segment, just to let you know that Innocent Atuluba will be here. I promise you that, to take us on our main conversation. But that is when we return. Federal government World Bank clash over 54.9 trillion naira 2025 budget funding strategy. Still Enterprise Morning. I'll be right here.